Payne Chevrolet in Springfield. 9 decades, 3 generations, 1 tradition.
I got what I asked for at Payne Chevrolet. That's the honest truth.
It was another strong turnout statistically for Ridgetop's Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting Tuesday evening. Ridgetop citizens sat patiently as city leaders made their way through the night's agenda, but things heated up as the opportunity for citizens to speak arrived. Smoky Bar News began recording the meeting at the point where citizens were allowed to speak. It will be unedited from that point forward. At the moment, Ridgetop is without a police force because its one and only officer is on leave.
He's out on leave, that's all I can say.
So he gave you a letter that said he was out on leave?
Yes.
We don't know why?
Yeah, but I can't get into that.
I see. Understood. All right. We are now going to run the meeting for you unedited. It does get a little heated at times. It will run about 45 minutes.
Everything was fine, and then you turned around and worked all the figures differently for July 2nd?
No.
Yeah.
Well, I've been telling this board, whoever's been out there, probably for 3 months, that's $130,000. At first I thought it was $124,000.
There's
Wait a minute.
125 or 130.
$130,000 in the budget, and that's where it's going to stay.
Show it to me. Where is it in the budget?
It's not in the document. Nowhere.
It's nowhere. We can't find it.
Show us exactly.
Miscellaneous items is all the way down through there.
Show it to me.
Gas and oil,
May I please see it?
The number 130 does not appear.
It does not appear.
You're absolutely.
I know I'm right.
Congratulations to you. It's
Well, thank you.
80-something or $70-something thousand in there that is for a grant. When you deduct that out, the grant's pass-through money, it's $130,000. It's right there in the police budget. And it also comes in on the income side. It's $75,000 some odd dollars. Okay, it's there.
No one else can see it.
I can't help that. I know that it's there.
Well, you should be able to help it. You people put the budget together.
It's there. You're correct.
And why is the grant for the bill for the lights over at the school put as an expense to the police department? Has nothing to do with the police department.
It's not expense to the police department. That's a walk to school grant. It was started out
You
$80,000.
expense it to the police department.
It's shown. Yes.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yes.
Well, it has nothing to do with them.
It was applied for through the police department years ago, so it has to be expensed back through their
No, it
department.
doesn't, because
if you'll let me finish, if you look on the very first page of your budget, it will also say that it's an income as a revenue on your first page of your budget that offsets that line item.
Do you see that?
Yes.
I'll talk to you in just a second.
Yes.
And hopefully that walk school grant will be completed, which we're all got our fingers crossed. I think we're on 7 years. And they've done away with the program. We talked to them. I talked to them Thursday of last week. One waiting on the other to get paperwork to them on the upgrade, and that's what we were promised at the end of the school year would be in service, in use by the start of this year. And I got
Wait
that.
on design plans.
Waiting on design plans. Yes.
But if you look back, that's been in every budget for like the last 5 or 6
Yes, but
years.
it's been moved.
No, it's not.
Yes, it has been.
It
It's
was
on the audited
80,000
financial statements. It was taken off the
It was
police.
$80,000
It's a
every
zero.
year. It does go to zero because we haven't spent the money. But if you look on our budget, just like I gave you this morning or yesterday, that it was $80,000 every year for the last 5 or 6 years. The only thing that's been spent out of it was for some design plan money, and so it brought it down to $75,000, like $131. But that's been in there every year if you look back.
Have you received the money?
The difference between the 80 and the 75, yes ma'am. That's why that's all that's left in there.
We don't apply for the rest of the money to the process.
Until we spend it. We get reimbursed as we spend the money.
We're still waiting for you to rework the budget to put our police department back. That's what we want.
Well,
And
that
you
might
folks,
happen, but the police chief's not been here to discuss it with us.
we're the people here. We're here to discuss it with you.
And after last July 2nd,
Yes?
there were 6 people that wasn't in this audience. They come up to me the next day.
Oh, 6?
6.
Wow.
Nobody.
That's
All right, after this meeting, how many people called me?
I'm
0.
sorry? What'd you say?
I said, after this meeting, after last month's meeting about the police department, I didn't have a call about putting everybody back together.
Did we not make it clear?
I'm just telling you.
Did we not make it clear?
6 people came to me.
Did we not make it clear?
Wait a minute. Did we?
You are all outrageously out of
No, ma'am.
line.
We
Yes,
have
you
a
are.
$130,000 budget, we're gonna stick with
No,
it.
you don't.
Yes,
You have
we do.
way more than that. You've got it in the general fund. You could fund them like that if you wanted to, you just don't want to, and you refuse to listen to what the people here want you to do, and that's your responsibility. I'm done.
So, I have a question. I'm assuming you're aware of the agreed-to order for the preliminary injunction, and that in area agreement number 4, pursuant to the Tennessee Code annotated blah, 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 these written findings of fact and conclusions of law and final judgments shall be recorded in the minutes of the mayor and alderman. Mayor Reasoner, has that been done?
Repeat the question.
It really wasn't that hard. I'm going to do it again. I'll slow down.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Area agreement number 4.
That's a pretty condescending comment right there.
I'll ask another question in a moment.
Congratulations.
Number 4 says, pursuant to the Tennessee annotated section 844-106, these written findings of fact and conclusions of law and final judgments shall be recorded in the minutes of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. My question to you is, has that been done?
No.
And why not?
This is first
The
meeting.
court order said it should be recorded in minutes. Why hasn't it been done?
What we can do to
This is
make
the-
That's an issue that the attorneys that are handling the lawsuit that's been brought by the three.
This has nothing to do with lawsuit. This is TRO, temporary restraining order. That's what it is. You guys stipulated.
Well, I beg to differ with you. The TRO is involved in that lawsuit.
Well, I know what the court order says. I can read this.
And it's filed.
It
Yes.
is filed.
It's signed by a judge, so why hasn't this been done? My question.
This is the first meeting we've had since.
It is
No,
not.
it's not.
No, it's
I mean,
not.
we've had special call, and you can only put certain things on special call meetings.
Special things that you want, right.
So that's an excuse. Will you commit that you're going to get this done at the next meeting as the court ordered?
We'll do the best we can.
Well, that doesn't mean much to me. That doesn't mean much. Okay, my next question. Mayor Reader, can you tell me what the word nepotism means?
In simple English,
Please, that's all I need.
all right, you can't hire a family member to work under you. That's the way I interpreted that.
Well, I'm going to read it to you.
Go right ahead.
A form of favoritism based upon acquaintances and familiar relationships, whereby someone in an official position exploits his or her power and authority to provide I'm glad for the humor, for a job or favor to a family member or a friend. So that's the definition. I'm sure our attorney knows what nepotism means in the law. Have you ever seen nepotism practiced in the city of Ridgetop since you've been around here?
Practice.
And have you ever seen it happen? So back in February, when you chose that man, how many people did you interview for that job to be an alderman before you appointed your friend? Mark Johnson.
Did you not come to Tony and tell me?
He came to me.
I volunteered.
Okay, but how many other people, there's a process that should be followed. How many people did you discuss the position with before you appointed your friend?
I can't say any,
None.
because he came to me first.
Well
Is there a
said.
question in here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually accusing an ethics violation for nepotism, but we'll get to that. And he will have to investigate, I guess.
Well,
Have you listened to the tapes?
Mr. Harper resigned, and the position needs to be filled. And anybody can step up.
But nobody did, so we appointed our friend, our buddy.
Mark stepped up.
Yeah, right. And
We
so-
needed help with the budget.
He's a
Okay?
budget specialist.
Somebody had to do
Well,
it.
he got him out of debt a long time ago.
Great job.
So anyway, let's go to the next question. Have you listened to the tape since the last meeting? You,
Excuse me.
have you, not the minutes, the
Okay,
tape.
go ahead.
Okay, do you know how many people were here at that last meeting? Would you like to take a guess?
I think there's.
How many properties were represented?
I didn't ask you a question. How many people were in this room standing out in the parking lot?
It was under probably 90.
90? Okay, so, and I'll take your number. And do you know how many spoke in favor of retaining safety from the police department? Do you know that number?
I can look it up.
How many spoke in favor of that? Would you tell me?
If I go back in my book.
I'm talking about the
Oh, no, I
report.
do not have a direct number.
Okay, do you know how many spoke in favor of defunding the police department and essentially tantamount to eliminating it? Do you know how many spoke in favor of that? Okay, so let me say this to you. What you're really dealing with is your fiduciary responsibilities. Now, in case we need to define that, actually I'll start off with Obama. Obama says that the people cannot trust their government to do the job for which it exists, to protect them, and promote their common welfare. All else is lost. It goes on to say, trust in government is so important that fiduciaries are charged, that's you folks, with protecting and maintaining the public trust. Toward this end, as stewards of the public trust, public fiduciaries have a duty to avoid even the appearance of impropriety. That is to say, even if a particular course of conduct does not meet all of the elements necessary to constitute a particular course of violation of law, it nevertheless may be unethical if it creates a perception of wrongdoing that will harm public trust. For example, even if a public official believes that he can be impartial in spite of what might appear to be a potential conflict of interest, the official must be mindful that the public is not privy to all the facts and can't know what's in his mind. Now, my question to you is, you saw the people's opinion, we heard it, I attended the same meeting each one of you did. Why should we trust you? You totally ignored an overwhelming response.
I don't think I can say a word for you to trust me right now.
That's an honest answer, thank you. Because I don't think you can find very many people in this town that trust you.
I'll take that bet.
Well, let me ask you.
I trust him with my life before I trust the police department with my life.
The question is, I know you don't like being questioned. I know it's a threat to your power structure and to your cronyism. I know you don't like it. I understand that.
I don't mind being questioned. I
Yes,
can
you
answer
do.
everything you give me.
But you were honest that you don't think you merit trust right now. I don't think any of you do. And I would be happy to pay for a referendum in the city of Ridgetop. If you will provide a question, do you trust us as your alderman and mayor? You put that out to the people, I'll pay for it. And will you adhere to the feedback if they say no, yes, no question? Do you trust your alderman to represent your wishes and mail it to every property owner here? Send me a bill, I'll pay for it. And let's put it in the public record.
Bill amended.
That's all for tonight.
I'm sorry.
I'm Neil Hancock, 5632 Greer Road. I've lived in Ridgetop 48 years. I was involved with the police department. Y'all voted 5 times tonight to either spend money or put out bids to spend money. And yet you can only fund $130,000 for a police department. The people, the citizens of Ridgetop, deserve a full-time police department to protect them. It's more important than parks. It's more important than sewers. It's more important than roads. We need a police department. The county is not going to patrol our streets. They're only going to come when called.
They've been patrolling.
Well, it's not going to work. You know, you set ticket quotas and you got caught at it, and now you're...
I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. And you was involved in, I believe, 05 and 06?
No,
You was
04
police
and
commissioner?
05.
04 and 05? Well, just so you know, during your time, the revenue from the police department was right at $350,000 for those 2 budget years that you were over the police department.
No, it wasn't. We didn't set any ticket quotas. But
You accepted $350,000 worth over your 2 budgets.
You have to show me that.
Well, you're welcome to get a copy of
$350,000
on those 2 budgets.
on tickets?
On those 2 years. Yes, sir.
I don't believe it.
Mr. Neal, it's not that we don't want to have a full-time police department. We just got to bring it to a budget that we can deal with. Now, if from, like, I'm going to say from now on, if we stay with 130, we don't have to worry about writing a ticket or not. They can ride all day.
It's not, they will write tickets.
I can't say that no more. We got drug regular.
Should have said it the first time.
Did you hear all the conversation?
I did.
That's it.
Yeah.
I've seen the written report that was filed. The legal report.
Lady up there. Mike.
Kim Dutset, 1012 Nightingale Acres.
Hang on, what's the last name?
Dutset, D-U-T-Z-E-K.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a few questions about what you spoke about earlier tonight, just to fill me in on some of your work. You call it the sewer project. Is that going to be a sewer treatment plant ultimately?
Greer Road, that's a drip system.
So what does that entail? What does that mean? Is
What
it a
we do
treatment
now
system or not?
is pump gray water. It's gray water, I was thinking dirty water. It's not solids, it's just gray water. We pump it to Metro now. Our contract runs out 2020, 24, 25. Sure. We've been looking at different things to do to offset that. We will never release that because that's our candy, I reckon.
We own that.
We own
that capacity.
We're looking at a piece of property out on Greer that will take that, whatever we can send out that way, it comes in and that's what hopefully the 25th will tell us. What I've been told, hadn't seen one work yet, which Pleasant View has it. I think Crossville Elementary has it. It comes in I'm going to say a self-contained box. It's like a building, almost like a garage. Okay. It's got a drum that continuously rotates while water's going through it. This gray water's going through it and filters that, and there's an infrared. I'm getting on the edge of it, but that supposedly treats it before it goes out in the system. And if you got a field line in your house, you're not on sewer, that's exactly what that does.
Okay. So I was looking at the notes in here, and I think you mentioned it earlier, the lawyer mentioned it earlier, that the previous scientist said the land did not look amenable to the system. And then you hired a second scientist that said it looked pretty good. So I want to know what makes the second scientist's findings better than the first.
The second one was his original one he's worked with for quite a few years. He's done
But I want to know this, I guess maybe next meeting, could you let us know what really are the specifics of how come that guy's interpretation is better than the first? I really do want to know because I live here and want to.
When I was out there on the first one, it surprised me, but he would take a shaft, a hollow shaft, go down and hold 16 inches, pull it out, start crumbling it up, and if there was a thin gray line, I mean paper thin, then it'd be a red flag.
And that's what happened on the first one?
That's all, well, until I get to sit down with him and ask him, that was it.
I guess, as a citizen, I would want to know before we spend a lot of money on a sewer system that may or may not work when one scientist already says.
That was just a quick sample of the land.
Okay.
What they actually have to do now, what we're talking about doing with this option, is every 100 feet, they stake it and they test every one of those spots, plus, and the state will be there for that, plus they have to do, I forgot how many pits, where they look at soil that way. We're going for an intense test, and it may come back and say, this doesn't work, or this does work. We got a preliminary, and now we've got to do a deep dive.
Okay, and then so, leading into that, I may have heard incorrectly, are we paying rent to this property owner at this point?
We will be, yes ma'am.
We will be, but we don't even know if this is going to work yet.
Well, they're hoping for us. If not, they could sell it before we could even get this started. Government's not fast.
I understand that.
Okay.
And don't you think testing should be complete before we enter into a contract so we know for sure whether it's going to work or not?
Well, it's on contention that it passes.
Okay, it is on contingency?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and then another question I have kind of led to what was said earlier. The filed restraining order mentioned that the June 10th meeting was null and void, and when I picked up the meeting call minutes, the June 10th meeting is in here, and nothing is said about that it's null and void. So it looks like this actually really happened when the filed court document says that it didn't. So I'm also asking that that be amended or changed, or however you need to do it to file it to reflect what's actually legally occurring with this meeting.
Correct. And I did call and inquire about that, and they said we had to pass the minutes because it was a meeting as of record. So we had to pass the minutes as of record tonight. So I was just waiting to hear back from council.
And then
to
will
find
you
out.
update
Yes.
another agenda for the next meeting showing that that's been changed, that June 10th?
It will be on our agenda that we make it part of the record of what happened in the court proceeding.
And it wouldn't make the entire meeting null and void. It
Right.
would only make that one particular action null and void.
Okay. Also, I want to speak to, being a citizen, I want our police department. I want our police department funded. I do believe you have the money. I believe it's personal, and I think you just need to stop and fund the police department. We have playground equipment right now, and we stood up here with a whole room of people to tell you, and for you to say that only 6 people called you the day after, I had no idea I should have called you. I would have called you. I sat up here and said, I want the police department. I didn't realize the phone call was needed afterward. So please, on the record right now, I want our police department.
The next day, when I said the vote was already taken.
And I tried to stop that and say, could we meet the next night? Exactly. And you said that was a good question.
You said the meeting's over. And y'all, some of y'all have told us that you don't have enough time limit. If we had a meeting the next night, we still had to publicize it. And that's more than the next night.
Well,
2 nights later.
Yeah, but whatever. We should have another meeting.
You never worked with
us. You never worked with us to have another meeting.
And then I have concerns about Mr. Deweese taking over the fire and police, and he's not even going to be here when we have a big to-do right now about fire and police.
If he's not here, either I step back in or somebody on this board step back.
Okay, as long as that'll happen. But we want our police department. Thank you.
Well said. Jeff Kelton, 5730 Greer Road. Carl, I got a question for you. Who got the bids on Shedden Road? Who was awarded the bids?
Who was awarded the bids?
Yes.
Comtech.
Both bids? Because you were saying there were 2 bids, one for demo and then one to rebuild.
Oh, I thought you said just, Comtech got the new structure, which is the country's largest concrete manufacturer for highway and interstate stuff. And then the other one is Dwayne, what's his name? Dwayne Ralph.
Okay. Is there a set rules of who can and cannot put in for bids on stuff like that here?
We got to put it out for advertisement, and whoever wants to bid on it can bid on it.
What about family members?
Don't know any family members that bid on it.
I know of 2 buildings here in the city that was built by family members at the mayor right there. That was awarded bids.
1985 and 2000.
One of them was what? When did you build that one over here, Josh? The EMS building?
I built that in Dollarman.
So, okay.
That works?
But yeah, you awarded yourself a bid, that's what I'm saying. What's the set rules?
The city subcontracted.
He was
that, as
actually
far
the
as I
contractor
remember.
over, which I was the contractor over this fire hall.
So y'all didn't collect any money for that? So Josh has not put any, Josh, I'm not meaning to call you out. I'm just saying this because I know you work in construction here. So Josh has not collected any checks for doing any type of work here from the city as far as doing sewer work or building or anything like that?
I know he's volunteered a lot of time and volunteered.
Volunteer is not what I'm asking. I'm saying asking collecting a check.
Or as being a contractor.
Can I
I can't, go ahead.
Darrell Denton was mayor when I was awarded a small job back here because this room kept flooding. That's been 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
Okay.
My last check was $50 from sitting in that seat for 4 years, a month.
Because
I will gladly turn my records over to you tonight, or excuse me, a CPA tonight, and I will go through an audit if that's where you want.
Well, that's, I've heard different. I've heard that.
Yeah.
Huh?
Removed.
Don't worry about who.
Well, where did you get this information from?
You make a derogatory comment about.
No, I'm not. I'm asking for it. It's a question.
You question ethics.
No, hold up. I'm not even talking to you. I was talking to him. You are out of the
question ethics, but you don't want to say where you get it.
The ethics thing is all up here. That's all I'm going to say. I'm asking. That's all I asked.
He asked a fair question. Who's telling you that happened?
And I ain't got to say.
No question.
That's all I got to say right there.
Gentlemen, go
I
ahead.
ain't gonna wait on him, he's been here before.
Oh, that's great. I was thinking.
I thought you had to leave him back to
Francis Monnier, 522 Struggle Avenue.
Say that one more time.
Francis Monnier, 522 Struggle, sorry.
All right.
Francis, speak up, please.
Yes, sure thing. So guys, mine's more of just a basic question.
Can't hear you.
Sorry, can't help you there. Just a couple of basic questions, guys, just based on kind of some, you guys talk real quickly sometimes, so it's kind of hard for some of us to keep up. Can you guys explain to me the difference between a resolution and a motion, real quick?
You mean a resolution and ordinance?
No, sir. You guys have used resolution and motions in different contexts. Kind of want to know what that means, please.
You know, it's a technical term, I'm gonna throw that in Russell.
No, I mean, not, well, just kind of, you know what I mean, just kind of help, because I've heard you guys throw both, and then you guys vote slightly differently in different ways, so I just kind of want to know what that means, please.
Well, it's fairly complicated. There's a laundry list of statutory items that have to be passed by ordinance. There are others that can be passed by resolution and/or motion.
Okay.
Resolution and motion are much one and the same thing.
Okay, so you guys use them interchangeably, is what you're saying?
No, I wouldn't say that, because some things such as tonight where there was resolutions that have a little more specific context that need to be addressed in writing.
Before they're fulfilled.
To be able to put before the vote with the actual, what you're actually voting on versus a simple motion to adopt an agenda item. That doesn't have to be by resolution.
Okay.
But it can be, as long as the advertisement and I use the term advertisement or notice is presented in the agenda and the posting, then generally you're going to see either there be either motions, resolutions, and or ordinances.
Okay.
For instance, if you want to annex additional property by law, that has to be by ordinance.
Okay.
To enter into a contract as was entered into tonight, or there was a resolution passed to move forward in an option contract, that doesn't have to be an ordinance. That can be by resolution.
Okay, so that would be, okay. You had mentioned, since you're talking, you had mentioned very briefly an audit, something about an audit. Could you, I didn't really catch that. Could you clarify that just a minute, please? Clarify what you meant by an audit?
The comptroller requires that every municipality submit through its legal counsel sort of a very generalized accounting of any claims or threat of claims or pending suits or anything that exists. And then that's just part of the elements in which they go through to undertake their audit.
So there is an ongoing audit at this time?
No, I wouldn't call it an ongoing audit. It's an annualized audit.
Okay, so this is procedural.
For instance, the city of Cross Plains has to do the same thing. The city of
Okay, this
This
is not separate from
This is
standard
not
procedure.
anything as a result of any of the legal actions going on in the city. No, it's a standard procedure within the audit to divulge what causes of action. For instance, if the city was sued for purposes of, say, some personal injury claim that a employee had, that would have to be divulged.
Okay. Mac, you had mentioned closing the books. Is that for the budget that was passed most recently?
No, that's for our current budget.
That's for our current.
Well, we're into the new budget. That's for the 18-19 budget.
So that's what you're finished, that's what you're wrapping up.
I'm sorry, I didn't add that in there, for the 18-19 budget. Yes.
Okay, you had mentioned something, running for a grant. Do we have, what specific qualifications, you mentioned the grant earlier, are required for that grant? Is there something that will prevent us from receiving said grant? The safety one?
Safety Partners grant,
Yes.
that's a fairly, I won't say easy. Our insurance one puts it out, that's correct, or advertising.
So there should be a reason why we shouldn't get it?
True.
Okay.
It's usually based on how many people turned it in and how much money they have
available for that distribution.
And quarter to the budget.
Now, the other grant I was talking about was for air packs for the fire department.
Okay.
That's through a whole different, who's that through?
TEMA, that's extremely competitive.
Yes.
Okay, so, but if that were to go through, that would offset potentially your budget based on the higher cost of those airbags, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So just kind of shifting way to you, Mr. Dewey's, just real briefly. Guys, don't take this wrong, please. This is not meant to be condescending. But we were mentioning earlier the volunteering of, you know, folks being able to step up to the plate and helping out. I mean, you're being allocated to be the commissioner of police and fire, correct? Or is it just, okay. I've given you guys my phone number before. Now, granted, I know you were awaiting a phone call, so it's, you know, I gave you guys my number to try to initiate a communication. But I was trying to initiate that communication to you guys as well. I mean, I think that could be an open-ended.
I agree.
You know, it could be coming to me as well. I mean, anybody, really.
I agree.
I mean, I'd volunteer myself if you guys, you know, if that was the case. I mean, obviously, I don't know if there's any merit qualifications. Are there? Are there any merit qualifications for volunteering for those positions? Not that you know.
Volunteering for the designation.
That he can put in his input.
I mean, if he's unable to, I mean, you're saying if he has unable to.
I mean, if he resigns from this seat, don't forget that.
Yes.
Yeah, if he resigns from the seat, that would be up to the board.
But it is something we can volunteer for, though, right? Hypothetically?
If it comes up, or the board can deem it that they don't have to fill it till next term.
I think when you're resident, maybe don't even
We
qualify.
can volunteer you.
Only they can.
It's worth a shot. But all I'm saying, all I'm saying is, I gave my number to y'all. I know specifically to you two. I don't know if I gave it to you. But that's a two-way street, guys. Feel free to reach out as well. Because me personally, amongst several other folks here, would love to have an open dialogue. And I'm not talking about saying
I agree,
whatever, but it's just.
And I was doing some other research on the issue, and I didn't get back to you. That's true. I'm still.
Oh no, I'm not knocking. It's not like that. I'm not saying.
It's not just him. A lot of Mr. Resner. Excuse me for interrupting. You had his number too. You didn't reach out. Is there?
I got more to do than.
I know, but
all I'm saying, slow time of the year, I'll grant you.
I believe you.
I get you, but you had mentioned, the only reason why I'm bringing it up is because you had mentioned folks not getting back to you. I wanted to give you guys my contact info as well to be proactive, not necessarily go straight to calling you guys, because you don't have the prerogative, I mean, you don't have to call me, or you don't have to answer the call. That's why I did that. But that's pretty much all I had.
Let me address your last, actually that's a charter issue as to the appointment of the heads of the various departments.
Charter issue, what do you mean?
Well, the charter provides that the mayor and on approval of the alderman, these gentlemen are to serve in those department heads.
Okay. But like I said, I mean, if the volunteering opportunity was there, I don't see why not. Thanks, guys.
Anyone can walk up to the mayor if there was an opening and say, I would like to serve.
Okay. Well, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Thanks, guys.
I'm Tammy Coombs, 1013 9th Street. Guys, I don't like to be in a city that's divided from the police department of our hall. I don't like to be in a divided city. You guys, what was your oath? Was it to protect us citizens? Was it to help us citizens? Who's my alderman? Who is my alderman that can help me? Because I've been reaching out to everyone. I called this office to try to find out who is it to represent us citizens to listen to what we got to say. Is it you or is it you? Who took an oath to protect us, to serve us citizens? Who? Can you say it?
I was one of them. And I think the only time you've come up to me is either standing right off my back porch when I was getting a summons or
No, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And then across the street, the night that the police department was door was back.
I've never been on your property.
Okay.
But I've asked several, like Mr. DeWeese, I mean, he went or voted that way, but then the last meeting he voted to fire Alex, you know. You know, how can we reach out to our people on the board when no one's listening to us? I mean, I can look every one of y'all in the eye. And, you know, I'm a citizen that care. I don't want this paper to be divided. I don't want y'all to be the small. I want us to be citizens together. You know, pull together, they're pulling apart. There's a way that you can give us our police department back. You know, just because it's retaliation does not mean all of us have to suffer. And our kids are suffering. I asked Kelly, does she know how many kids are in the foster care system in this city? She couldn't answer me. How many kids are afraid that their parents or drug parents are going to come back and pick them up? Police protection helped us on that. But none of y'all are willing to. Maybe help the grocery store down the road, but what about our communities where people are going 60 miles an hour down to 20? You know, it's happening every day. I'm taking a picture of license plates every day, trying to get someone to do something. Someone's going to get killed, and it's going to be bad. And what are you going to say? I'm sorry? That's not right.
I hope nobody has to do that.
And yeah, I hope it doesn't get to that either.
I do too.
Give us our police department back. Give us protection. We have detectives. We have patrolmen. I got a picture of an Enterprise truck that was doing at least 50 past the park today. I got a picture of him. And you guys, there's revenue right there. We got trucks speeding down 257 every day. You know, it's going to kill somebody is what's going to happen. I just wish you would listen to us.
Ma'am,
Please.
Joe, your dog.
I can't say hardly anything about revenue anymore. But how many tickets were wrote last month and the month before? When we did have a police department?
How many responsible police
That's
officers?
the third question. I'm not for a police department. Yes, I'd like to have one, 24/7. With 7 people, we cannot afford 6 people.
But he gave you a budget last time, and you weren't willing to work with it.
After if I remember right, because I think we sat on a meeting with him and assistant chief, that he said he could probably do 100 and 150,000. Well, you know what? This man just run me through the coals. One of them, he rebutted a story, and Channel 17 still does, that's ticket quota. Well, that hadn't been done. So, how do I make people that's working over there get out and do their job?
When I moved this community 10 years ago from Pleasant View, it was a great community. But I've been seeing it decline in the past 10 years. Used to have reenactment things at the park for the kids, for the Boy Scouts. There was a lot of things this city used to do. You guys do nothing. You advertise for the Barrel Fest for Coopertown, but what does Ridgetop have to bring people here? To spend money here, you know? I just really want
Smoke on the Ridge is one of them.
How many people showed up to that?
It don't matter.
We need to bring people into our community, not just community people.
Well, they talked about 500 people going to be at Wilson Park in September. Isn't that right? Yep. 500 people last year. They're doing that again.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see how it shows up. Just like the fish fry. I mean, we'll just see.
Well, that's not helping. You just said you don't want to divide the community. Oh,
I'm not.
Any more questions?
No, I'm fine.
Thank you, ma'am.
Does she own property here?
Yes, she does. I do own property.
I'm not talking to you.
Oh, no, you
I was asking about her. She's about to do a produce stand.
So, the question that I have.
Name?
Oh, sorry, Trina Bradshaw, 1863 Highway 41. So the question that I have is, we know about the ticket quota, we've heard so much about that. And on July 2nd, a lady in our community stood up and she said that she was really scared, that the story that she'd seen on the TV, that she was scared about that. And so my question is can we hear that entire tape recording? Because she was scared about that. Why can't we hear that whole tape recording rather than 15 seconds from Channel 17 News with you saying the ticket quota, so to say? If you said the revenue, we wouldn't be where we are today. But what led up to that conversation? What led up to you saying a number in that meeting at the workshop? We've heard 15 seconds from Channel 17 News. Where's that recording that the lady that was scared in our community? Can we hear that at a meeting? Would that be a problem?
It's a problem. We don't have that.
Who has that recording?
Well, the police department or somebody got it, because Channel 17, somebody doctored it or cut it or did something with it.
Okay.
There's a 30-something, is it about 30-minute conversation probably?
Oh, yeah, it was a lengthy conversation.
So, yeah, we would all love to hear that conversation.
Okay, well, I'd like to request at some point to satisfy the whole conversation rather than just the ticket quota number. What was that conversation that led up to you saying a number? I know we were talking about adding a 7th officer. This is something that I brought up last, I don't know if I have it, brought up last meeting. And it was later said, well, we only had 2 officers. The only time that we've had 2 officers were in June when the police officers were reinstated. Is that correct? So what you have in your hands here, Ms. Koontz was just talking about the tickets and people speeding. So 2018, I'm going to say this again, and now you have a copy of it. From February to May of 2018, there were 685 citations, 791 violations. The minimum for those tickets, when you're talking revenue, the minimum is $125 is my understanding. That's if it's not a second event, a second ticket. So $125 times 685 citations is $85,625. That's a minimum $125 ticket. And when we say tickets, everybody thinks that it's just speeding, right? But there's other things. There's drunk driving, there's reckless driving. Sometimes they find drugs when they pull them over, suspended license. So it's not just a speeding ticket. Now if you look at from February to May of 2019, you'll see 154 citations. And on that last page, 154 citations times a minimum of $125 is $19,250. $60,000 difference in 4 months. So Ms. Koontz also said about speeding. So we have called, 257 is now a roadway. We called in April, we called in May, because there are 85, 83, 75, 76, I'm calling ages, of people that live when Greenbrier meets the Ridgetop city limit. I wrote an email to our commissioner, county commissioner, Mr. Wade, and asked him, because we could not get the police to come to patrol that anymore, if they would send county cars to help with that. And he responded, and we did get some help. Ms. Kaiser was here last month, July 2nd, Linda Kaiser, Sherry Kaiser. Mr. Kaiser, if you remember, was killed on Greer Road by a speeding driver that ran out and killed him while he was mowing his yard a few years ago. His wife was here, and she said something about that to the chief of police that night, and just said people do die from speeding. So my thing is, if we know this and we're saying that we want this revenue for our budget, then why did the police just disappear? Why, when they were called on July 6th, I was in Ridgetop, the vegetable stand, the Robertson County Sheriff Department pulled over 3 cars in 20 minutes. I came out that night to Dollar General, a state trooper had somebody pulled over at Watauga. I hate to say it, but that's the most police I had seen. And you're saying, everybody is saying that it's all y'all, it's both. It's the police too, and there's vendetta against people that have been former mayors, aldermen. This budget, y'all have said in this meeting, has been the same since 2004. Is that correct? The budget for the police.
It's probably gone up or down a little.
Okay. Pretty similar.
Right.
Okay, so lots of former mayors, aldermen have have passed that budget.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so all I'm saying is there was a lot of money here, and they have told you to step up and be a leader. Well, if you knew that you had families that were going to lose their jobs, then why would you not be everywhere in the community and be seen and doing your job? And if you're honest, you can ask Miss Tracy on Beach Road, you can ask the Lusters on Woodruff, where there's even a gravel area where you can pull in for the police. They always used to be there, I saw them. They haven't been there in weeks and months. And we have had, if you'll look at this, there were 4 officers, and then we had 1 officer that's been on medical leave since January, because he's not on here. And you can also see the officers that wrote the tickets. So we did have officers in February, March, and April, and part of May. And my other question is, I wanted to find out in May, the comptroller, we were looking at a breach. Has anything come back from that?
Well, I can't.
Can you not answer that?
Only thing I can say, they're still looking into it.
Okay, so a breach of employees and former employees, Social Security numbers, things like that, that people had access to, and that has not come back yet.
That's all I can say.
All right, thank you very much.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second by Mr. Ryder. All in favor?
The Robertson County Funeral Home has been serving families for a quarter-century. When it's time to celebrate and remember, to honor in loving memory, the Robertson County Funeral Home.